Welcome back, everybody. I'm Terry, and today I'm going to be working on the rear suspension bar on my BMW Z3. Okay, so if you guys are just tuning in to work on your end links, then just note that there will be some differences, meaning that I just got done doing some other projects on the rear of my car. I did the rear subframe bushings as well as the diff mount bushings, so that means I don't have an exhaust on my car, and I've already got a lot of things disconnected that I didn't put back together just yet to make everything easier for me. If you're just coming in to do the end links and you haven't done anything with your car, just know that you can still do that, but you're going to have to work around your exhaust and things, and it's going to be a little bit more of a tighter space to try to get that suspension bar out. But the steps will be the same for the most part. You'll just have to do a little bit more, maneuvering to try to get it to work out for you. Now, I do recommend removing the spare tire if you still have one. I've already done a spare tire delete on my car, so I don't have a spare tire. But if you still do, make sure you go ahead and lower that. If you do not know how to lower your spare tire, do not fear. I actually have a tutorial video on my channel that will show you how to lower your spare tire. Go ahead and check that video out and then come on back right here and we'll tackle these end links. Let's go ahead and look at the parts we got. Alright, so for parts, I went ahead and I got some Lemforder end links here, and this is what they're going to look like. So I got 2 of those, and they do come with a new bolt and nut for those. So we're going to have these here. And then I got some Delphi bushings. I just went with OEM bushings just for the moment. Eventually I'll upgrade to poly ones, but I figure I'll wait until I get some aftermarket suspension bar and sway bars put in. I was thinking about eventually I want to do more of my suspension, and then once I get to that point, I want to upgrade to like an H&R front sway bar and rear suspension bar. So then at that point I'll go poly, but right now I'm just using the OEM one. I'll just stick to OEM for the time being. We'll just get some new end links put on just to help out, because the ones I got are heavily worn out. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see them. I don't have my lighting in here just yet, but the rubber on these is all severely cracked. So we're going to go ahead and get some new ones put in. As you can see, I don't have a spare tire here. I deleted that, and my exhaust is removed. Now, like I said, you can still do this with the exhaust in there. You're just going to have a bit of a harder time getting this bar to come out and maneuver around it. And I went with 15 millimeter bushings. Now, I had taken a digital caliper and I had measured the suspension bar to see what size it was so I can get the right bushings. Now, when I had gone online to look up the bushings that I actually need for my Z3, every single online retailer wanted me to get like an 18 millimeter or larger, and my car doesn't use an 18 for the rear. I don't know if all the online retailers have incorrect information, or if they're all assuming everybody's upgraded to aftermarket sway bars and stuff to where you would get a bigger size. I don't know, but nobody offered a 15 millimeter for my Z3, so I had to go and look up a random E30 that had like a 15 millimeter bushing so I can get like a part number. And then I bought those bushings. So that's what I have here, are some E30 15 millimeter bushings, and I'm hoping these will fit. Now when it comes to the bushings, I believe you're allowed to go one size larger or smaller than the actual sway bar itself and still be able to have decent fitment and not to have anything that would interfere with the actual use of those bushings. So that's why if I have a 15 millimeter sway bar, I can't have an 18 millimeter bushing on there. That's way too big, and it's not going to grip properly and function properly. So yeah, I'm happy I had measured my sway bar first, because if I had just gone off of all the online retailers telling me that my car takes an 18, I would have been in trouble. So let's go ahead and get this sway bar removed, and we'll get these parts put on. Now this is kind of going to be like a 2-part video, because I'm continuing where I left off from my previous video. So not only will we be removing this sway bar here, or suspension bar, I'm also going to need to retighten some things up, and I just kind of want to go over where I'm at. So as you can see, the exhaust is gone. I still need to torque down this bolt here. I need to put my brake line brackets and everything back into place. And I need to, and once we're all finished with the sway bar, I'll go ahead and reattach the lower bolt for the rear shocks here as well. So that way we can get, that looks pretty worn. I had replaced these, and I have a feeling I might just need new axles, to be honest. I don't know. Like, this one looks pretty heavily worn. Like, there's no holes in them yet, but I might just need new axles, to be honest. Anyways, we got to go ahead and remove this bolt here on this bracket. And then there's going to be another one right here on this bracket. And then that will separate it there. And then there's the end links. Now mine, I've already disconnected because I needed to do it to lower my trailing arms enough so I could do my diff mount bushing and my subframe bushings. But there's going to be a bolt that goes right through here that you can take out, and then that'll pop out. Or you can remove this nut here and take the whole thing off with it. It's your call how you want to go about it. But I just took these bolts out on mine. So mine are already completely disconnected, and you can see here a little bit more close up the cracks that are in the end links right here. So these definitely need to go. All right, so let me go see what size socket I need for these. Looking at it, I'm thinking maybe a 13. We'll find out here in a second, and we'll get this brought down. All right, so I was correct. It is indeed a 13 millimeter right here. Let's go ahead and zip this one off. I'm so happy I bought this electric ratchet. Definitely saves me so much time. All right, I'll have to probably pry this out, but let me get the other one off real quick, and then we'll go from there. Holy crap. Look at this cheap socket. This is a cheap socket that came with the electric ratchet. It completely shredded. So the sockets are trash for that set. All right, let me go get one of my good ones. I was being lazy, and I figured I'd just use the ones that came with the electric ratchet. And yeah, pieces of junk. That's like plastic, not even metal. All right, I went and grabbed an impact socket. Thankfully, the electric ratchet works really well, despite the fact that the sockets that come with it are trash. All right, so now we have that off. I'm gonna see if I can just pull down on it. I have a good feeling that's not gonna work, but you won't know until you try. Hey, it actually did work. No pry bar needed. Good deal. Okay. So that came off. Rotate this, and it'll come right out. And there we have the bar. I just want to make sure I look at it real good, kind of get the orientation of how it was, because there's this bend right here. So I know this needs to be on the left-hand side, so you don't end up putting this in upside down. All right, so let's go ahead, slide this out. I'm going to clean this off, man. Whew. And then we're going to pry these off and pry that off. I'll come back after I wipe all this dirt off, because ew. By no means do I need to make it immaculate. Just using a little brake cleaner. Brake and parts cleaner, I guess, technically. Brake parts cleaner. Alright. That makes this a little bit easier to hold on to. Not having all that grime on there. Perfect. Let's see if I'm able to get this off without a pry bar. I think I'm going to need a pry bar. Yeah, that's on there pretty good and tight. And honestly, these bushings don't look bad. I probably don't even need to change them. The end links for sure need to be changed though. Okay, let me get a pry bar. And I'm going to get my digital caliper as well, just so I can show you the measurement. Alright, so if I remember, I think it was actually 15.5 millimeters when I measured it originally. So here it said 15.2. Sorry for the lighting, but yeah, 15.2. And it should be the same all the way around. So it looks like right where the bushing is closer to its 16. But then when I go to the other bushing, it's a 15.3. So there's obviously going to be some inaccuracy with the digital caliper. So I'm somewhere around a 15 or a 16. So seeing as how you can go above or below by 1 millimeter for your bushing, I should be okay. Nowhere close to 18 like the retailer said I was. These don't look like they're in bad shape, so in the event my new ones do not fit, I can still rock these if I have to. The most important thing is me replacing those end links. Well, here, before I even do that, let me grab my new ones and see if they'll fit. This way I'm not wasting time trying to take those off, and then my other ones are too small. It won't be an accurate reading of fitness or fitment just because this bracket tightens it even more. But if I was to put this on, oof, this. So like, you gotta kind of spread it. Now the poly bushings are two separate ones, I think, that get pinched together. Yeah, just like that, and then it would pinch on. So that's not too bad. Trick is pulling it apart. So these should work fine. It would be much easier to spread this apart if I can get this bracket to release. So I need to get this bracket off. See if I can get underneath it and pry it down. There we go. It's kind of prying off a little bit. There we go. Got that off. Alright, and then here is the old bushing. I do apologize for the lighting, you guys. It's kind of dim. But I could tell it definitely is a lot more flexible and a lot softer than the new one. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll change that out. Because like the new ones, I have a harder time bringing that open. So it's a lot more firm. Go ahead and slide that in place there. And push it on. There we go. All right. That one is on. And then the bracket needs to get pressed in as well. And I wanted to make sure I try to keep this flush a little bit here. That looks pretty even, and then just kind of push down hard. Just like that. All right. New one is now installed. That's easy enough. And then we'll rotate this so we can get this other one off. Same thing, use my pry bar. Kind of get underneath the bushing and pry down. Just like that. Yeah, this one's nice. This one's very soft. See how I can do this very easily. Get the other one here. A lot more firmness. This is as far as I can spread it without putting a lot of effort into it. And you could probably put a little bit of like silicone grease or something on there if you need a little extra help sliding them on, but finding that if I spread it a little bit and then push down on the bar itself, I can push it in pretty easy. Just like that. No big deal. Kind of make sure it's in the spot where it was. And then put this on and try to get it flush. And then push it down. Like so. Alright, new bushings. Very easy. And that will help with having those firmer ones. These ones are pretty soft. So having some firmer rubber in there will help keep my back end from swinging out. Now comes the hard part, and that's dealing with these end links right here. So I'm going to have to try to pry this off. But here, let me get a close-up so you guys can actually see the condition these are in. Okay, it's just, now that we have a little bit better lighting over here, you can see how cracked these are. So we're going to go ahead and try to get these off. I'll have to try to pry this off the best I can. And then get the new ones on. And the new ones are going to be difficult to put on, but there's going to be a trick to that. What I'm going to do is I might even do it with these old ones just to soften it up a bit. So I have a heat gun, and I'm going to heat up the rubber, and that should really help with putting the new ones on, but it might even help heating this up to get the old ones off. And then some silicone grease too to help make it slide a little bit, and we'll pry these off. Let me go ahead and grab my stuff. So I want to soften the rubber a little bit so I can try to get this off here. Okay, now I didn't use any grease. Let's just see if just heating it up a little. Oh, that's hot. Will be enough to. Let me get gloves. That's a bit hot. A little hot to the touch. I want to kind of rotate it off if I can. All right, let me add a little bit of silicone. Now the good thing about silicone is it works really good with rubber, and it helps keep rubber flexible, and it also has like a waterproofing effect. So it'll be good for like fresh bushings and stuff. Gaskets, O-rings, that kind of thing. In case you ever want to try to extend the life of something, a little silicone grease on rubber will really help out. There we go. Work that in there. There we go. I think I'm wiggling it. There. Got it. Some silicone grease and some wiggling power. So now we just got to get the new ones on. And so you can tell which way goes where. There's going to be one that's going to have a metal sleeve and one that don't. The metal sleeve is for the bolt. The one that don't have that goes on the rod. That one's done. We got that one off. All right, let's go ahead and pry the other one off quick. Rotate this one out. Okay. Same thing. Well, I'm going to lube it up and just kind of spin it off. Okay, that grease is starting to work its way in. We'll add a little more. There we go. I didn't even have to heat this one. I just greased it up real good. Now that one's off. Now comes the fun part of putting the new ones on, which will be a lot more difficult, but we'll see what we can accomplish here. But we got 2 old, worn out end links off. The metal sleeve is for the bolt. This one don't have a metal sleeve, so we're gonna have to slip this on. Now this is BMW, so Lemforder makes the BMW ones. They just, because they can't have the branding, they just removed the BMW branding on it. But it's the same thing. Lemforder makes these for BMW. So if you're buying the BMW brand, you're buying Lemforder, you're just getting upcharged for the BMW name still being on it. Versus buying Lemforder. So just so you know, get the Lemforder ones. They're cheap. They're a lot cheaper than the BMW brand ones, and they're exactly the same. All right, so now this hole is going to be smaller now because it's not heavily wore out. You can even see the difference of how much bigger of a diameter this one has to this. So I'm going to heat the rubber. We're going to put a lot of lubricant in there, and I'm going to try to, kind of squeeze it on there, and we'll see how that goes. Just try to heat up this rubber, make it a little softer. Oh, it smells like warm rubber, so it's working. Don't want to do it too long. I don't want to actually damage it, but hopefully that'll be enough. So we'll put some silicone right on here, and we'll squeeze some silicone directly on the inside here. All right. Let's see. Maybe if I step on it, I can maybe get that to kind of work too. So stepping on it helped me get it started. And now we'll try to squeeze it on the rest of the way. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just keep pressing. Let me just keep stepping on it. I think that'll work. I'm not wearing my good shoes. I'm wearing my run down shoes, so these ones are a little softer and it kind of hurts to stand on stuff in these. I don't have my my sneakers on, but kind of got started. Maybe just add more lube and try to slip it the rest of the way. I could twist it off. I'm hoping I can kind of twist it on a little bit here. So what I did is I just heated it up some more, kept adding silicone to it, and then I just had to push it on. So I went and I stepped on it to where I got it about halfway through. And then once I got it halfway through, you know, just kept it warm and kept adding silicone. And then I just kept pushing down and twisting and pushing down and twisting and just kind of slowly coaxing it down. So now I have it on. So this rubber piece is touching that, hope you can't see, that rubber piece here is touching that inner lip right here. So I have it all the way down. So one is on. Now I got to get the other one on. So yeah, lots of grease and a lot of muscle, and just kind of push down on it with, you know, both hands, push down and twist and just keep working it. It's going to take a lot of effort, but you'll get it. Okay, I got both end links on. The second one was very easy to get on now that once I figured out how to do it. It took me like maybe 30 seconds to slip it on. So basically what I did is used my heat gun, got it real nice and hot on both sides until I could smell burning rubber. Once I could smell burning rubber, I stopped heating it. I added silicone. I stepped on it the one time to get started in, and then I just pressed down and it slid right in since it was so hot. So I think on the first go around, I wasn't heating it enough. So that's why I had such a hard time. I was worried about damaging it, so I heated it a lot more to where I could actually smell the rubber burning, and it slipped right on. So very easy to get it on once you heat it enough. So now we go ahead and we can reattach the suspension bar. All right, so make sure you have your orientation of the bar to match the way you took it off. So I have the part that dips down on the left-hand side of the car where it originally was. We're gonna have like these little tabs on the back side. We're gonna slip that into those holes first. Now I might need to do some realignment because it looks like I gotta slide that bushing in more. So let me slide that down. Pretty much gotta have these both of these bushings all the way up on the corners. My goodness. All right, try this again. Okay, bolt holes now line up. I wanted to tuck those other feet in first, but I'm not gonna be able to bend this enough to be able to do that because I'm hitting the axles. Maybe if I take the brackets off and then I try to put the bracket on, you know what I mean? Like after the fact, instead of having them pre-installed. Maybe that'll work. Let me try that. Let me add the brackets as I install versus installing the brackets first. What if we go ahead and we rest the bar up here, and I then go and I hold this up there by hand. Then I go the bracket, tuck that in. Okay, that's kind of working. Because then it's tucked in. Let me get this on finger tight just so it don't fall off. Just so it don't fall off. Okay, let me do the other side. Oh, yeah. Okay. Finger tight on that one. Okay, so I think that works, right? Okay, let me kind of show you what I did. I had to kind of manually put the bracket in. I kind of twisted the bushing with it, kind of got that side in, and then I pressed in on it and rotated it down to where I got it over the bolt. And then I finger tighted that on to kind of hold it. So it's not all the way pressed in, but I think once I bolt this down, it will. But now I gotta hope I didn't mess this up to get this past that axle. There we go. I gotta pry this down. Okay. Okay, kind of pry that down so I can hopefully get this to go into this trailing arm. What I'll probably do is lift the trailing arm up to try to get that lined up to get the new bolts through there. Woo-wee! Okay, but this lat's in, and I did that on both sides, got that little foot in, and then kind of pried it down and got that in. Get that to come down. There we go. Ow, pinch my hand. It's really hard to turn these because they're so stiff, but I gotta kind of force that spin outward. Come on, pivot. To kind of get that to where I can get that to go in its place. Okay, it's a start. I'm not going to tighten these down until I get the rest of this in place. This way, if I need to kind of, well, maybe I can tighten it down. Maybe it won't matter. I honestly don't know. I think the trick at this point is just going to be getting the end links to line up with the bracket that they sit in on the actual trailing arms. I'm just trying to force these end links to turn a little bit more because they're not going to want to sit where they're supposed to sit. Let's try to get these end links into the brackets that they need to go to. I also have a different little mounting bracket that holds on to the parking brake line here too. Okay, so now got the position. So these are the old little clips and bolts that came out of it. So we're going to keep the clip so that we can put the brake line back into it, and we're going to replace the bolt with the replacement ones that came with the end links. It's mounted on there one way or another, or does it go on this side? Maybe it goes on this side. Yeah, that might make more sense, having it go like that, because then you can put the brake line in. First things first, I gotta try to get this end link to go through here. And like I said, I'll probably have to do some maneuvering with the actual trailing arms to kind of get this to line back up, because it's gonna want to fight me quite a lot. So I think what I'll do is lift the trailing arm up so we can get this in a little easier. Okay, so I went ahead, I got my jack set up. Let's go ahead and raise the rear trailing arm. That's pretty close, just a little bit more. Huh. I'll have to pry that a little. I don't want to fit in between. Oh, you bugger. Okay. Now I gotta push it down. I'm gonna have to raise the trailing arm some more. That's not gonna be enough. Keep prying this apart. It doesn't want to let this slide in between. Okay. Okay, definitely gotta go higher still. We're getting close. Okay, I'm not sure how I'm gonna get this bolt to go through. I'm gonna have to come in the back like that and put the nut on the inside because there's no way to get this bolt in. I'll be hitting the spring lip right here. There we go. Tapping hint. I'm getting ahead of myself. I gotta remember how to put this stupid thing on. So, is this supposed to go on right here? Or does it go on right here? Based on how this was originally clipped here, it's gonna have to go on this side. Son of a gun. I gotta pop the bolt back out. Fudge. Alright, get this stupid thing in there first. Okay, now feed this through. Ugh. There we go. Now tap it. And we'll thread this nut on there. Okay, just so it can't pop out. All right. Woo-yee. So now this will be in place here. And then I'd be able to snap the parking brake back in once I get this torqued down to spec. Okay, let me go look up the torque spec for the end link real quick. All right, so I got my handy dandy Z3 Bible, the Bentley manual, and it says stabilizer bar link to the trailing arm is 16 pound-feet. So let's go ahead and get that torqued in. All right, so I believe this is a 13 millimeter. So let's get my wrench on there. I'll zip it down with the electric ratchet and then torque it. My electric ratchet isn't that strong, so it's not gonna like over tighten it or anything. It'll just get it tight, and then I'll torque it. Okay. All right, now we'll torque it. All right, that was one click. Let's just make sure we got it. All right, that's torqued. And then we'll tuck this brake line back in here, like that. That's back in its home. This one's clicked back in its home. All right, so before we lower this trailing arm, let me also get this back in place, and then we gotta snap the brake line in back up here. But let me get everything else back. That goes through. Okay. I'm hoping that was a 13 as well, because that will be convenient. Let's find out. Oh, thank goodness it is a 13. Haha. I don't know what the torque spec is for this one. I'm just gonna match it to the end link. 16 pound-feet seems pretty decent for something like this. I don't need to make it crazy tight. Well, I don't even know how tight I have that. I keep slipping off of it, but I know this is real good and tight. It shouldn't need to be crazy tight. So I think, let me see how it feels on this side. Oh yeah, that feels good and tight. I think we'll leave it alone. I'm not gonna torque it. I'm just making it good and tight. I'm gonna need both hands, but I gotta put that back up there. Okay, so that is now back in that little clip right here. This brake line is now bracketed back in here. End link is re-secured here, and this is torqued down to spec on this side. And the brake line is re-clamped in here, and the hard line is clipped in where it's supposed to be. This side is done outside of putting the shock back in place. But before, now we just gotta go get this side done, and then I can put the shocks back in place. So let's go ahead and move to the other side. Gotta try to get this into the bracket. I had to pry it on the other side, so I probably got to pry it on this side too, just to get it to open up enough to get that to slip in. There we go. Okay, got that kind of weaseled in. Oh, that's right. Come on. Oh, fudge. Okay, so I got the bolt started. Now I gotta get it to go through the other side. Okay. Good deal. And this bracket's in place for the brake line. So getting this stuff to line up is a little tedious, but as long as you can lift your trailing arm, you should be okay. Okay, I'll have to torque it from there. There. That's in. Now let's go ahead and torque this down. Got it. Let go. Okay. I got this stinking thing torqued down. Brake line is not clipped in. That's all I can say about this is All right, let me go ahead and get the one up here snapped in place as well. All right, so now I'm looking at the rear stabilizer bar, and your torque specs on this is the bracket for the bushing is 16 pound-feet, just same as the stabilizer link. So they're both 16 pound-feet. So let's go ahead and get that torque down. I went ahead, I got the bracket snap back into the parking brake line there, and then I got that bolt put in back there. I still got to clip it in there, but right now the brake line is way too tight, so I can't get it in. So I'm not sure why this all of a sudden got so tight, because I had so much slack, and now I don't have any slack, so I can't clip that back in. So I'm just leaving it at the moment. I torqued this bolt down here to 56 pound-feet. So the diff is done. So we're going to do 16 pound-feet on these brackets for the stabilizer bar. And then we'll go ahead and get the shocks put back in. So 16 pound-feet on that. Let me zip this on real fast with my electric ratchet. Let's see if we're at 16. Yep. And then this other one is tightened up too. So they're actually probably more than 16 from the electric ratchet, but as long as I know they're where they're supposed to be, that is then done. So we got to just get these shocks put in place, and then we are officially done with the back end outside of putting the liner back in and the wheels back on. So let's get these shocks put back on and get those torqued in place. I mentioned it on a different video, but these bolts for the lower shock here are technically one-time use. I don't have new ones, so I'm going to reuse them. I'm going to put thread locker on it. So let me go ahead and clean off the threads, and then we'll get that torque back in with some thread locker. So I got to raise it just a tad. Thread it in by hand first to make sure you don't cross thread it. All right, now let me zip it in a bit. Zip, zip. This is an 18 millimeter socket you're going to need for this. All right, zipped. And now we'll torque it. All right, we're going to set it for 74. All right, that one's good. Now off to the other side. Oh, sounds like my jack is maxed out, so. Oh yeah, I should be able to try to get that in there. Come on, thread it. All right, now let's torque that down. All right, perfect. And like I said, once you get the car back down on the ground so the weight is on the wheel, recheck your torque for your suspension. Always recheck it because you need the full weight of everything for it to be accurate. So this is just the starting point, and we'll retorque it later just to be sure. So now we got, this is torqued down, the diff is torqued down, and the brake lines and everything are put back in place. Sway bar links or stabilizer links are torqued down. Bushings are torqued down. So now everything's torqued down. The electrical connection for the diff was plugged back in on the previous video. So make sure that's all back in. So the only thing left is to get that brake line snapped back into its little bracket if I can. But otherwise, yeah, everything is done underneath the car. All that's left to do now is get the wheel liners in and get the wheels reattached. Heck yeah. All right, my friends, that's going to be the video for today. I will do the fender liners and the wheel liners and the wheels on a separate video, or I might not even make a video on that. I feel like people can probably figure that out, but I'll decide if I want to make a video on that. At least I finally got the rear of the vehicle done. It's been a very long, arduous project trying to do all these things. There's still a lot more I got to do on it technically. I have a feeling I might need to replace those CV axles. I did boot replacements because it was leaking oil, but you know, more than likely I'm going to need new axles, so I might be digging back in there. I'm going to drive it around and see how it feels, and if I do notice problems, I'll make a video replacing those axles if I come to that. But I'm hoping I still got some life left in them before I need to do that. Our tabs were never done, and we'll maybe hopefully get into that sometime, but I just didn't feel like I really need to do that because the bushings looked healthy. And we got to do a brake job on this car still too. So we got a lot of stuff I need to do on this car yet. There's going to be video content of me possibly replacing the oil pan gasket because mine's leaking real bad. And I might as well just do since I'll have to do an oil change to do all that. While I'm doing that, I'll probably just take the opportunity and I'll do the oil filter housing gasket as well. I've already replaced all of the things that tend to have oil leaks on this car except for the oil filter housing gasket and the oil pan gasket. Those are the only two gaskets left outside of, you know, the connection between the engine and the transmission. So hopefully that doesn't leak because I don't want to do that one. But we'll get into these other ones and other projects. The power steering is still another thing I want to do. I want to replace the hoses and the power steering housing reservoir. I do have a leak. I tightened down the clamps, and that seems to have stopped the leak for now, but I haven't driven it since I did that. So it might have just stopped it because there isn't any pressure on it. It might start leaking again once I start driving. So we'll find out, but it's at least stopping the leak for now until I am able to do that project. It's going to be some time before I can budget to do more work on this car. I've invested quite a lot into it already this summer, doing the stuff I've done so far for this series of videos, but plenty more to come. So if you guys are interested in the Z3 and you want to stay on the journey, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any other content. You're also welcome to follow me over on Cool Cat Terri for my Instagram, and you can get quick little updates on things in between projects, just to kind of get a little behind the scenes look of where I'm at before the videos post. So go ahead and do that. And but there you go. That was me going ahead and getting the new end links and bushings on the rear stabilizer bar. We did it. So thank you guys again, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.